Hi, welcome to our channel.
I hit dead on with it, though. Actually, perfect. Hey everybody, welcome back. Today is going to kind of be a follow-up or a part 2 of something I started a while back, and the idea is, can 22 trainers, pistols or rifles, be beneficial, and will that training actually carry over to their centerfire counterparts? I originally did this with my AR-22, which is a dedicated 22 rifle AR platform that I have set up for training, and I compared it to its 5.56 cousin, and the results were pretty shocking at how that came out. If you haven't seen that video, go check it out. I'll leave a description, or I'll leave a link in the description down below. So today we're basically going to do the same thing, but now we're doing it with pistols. So the idea here, like I said, is, can training with a 22 pistol that is set up for training purposes actually carry over? Well, like I said in the original video, the most important thing with that is you have to be honest with yourself. Your Ruger 2245s and your Mark IVs and all that, those are excellent guns, and don't crucify me when I say that I don't like them, but they're good plinkers and they're fun, accurate guns, but they're not good trainers. What I mean by that is, when it comes to trainers, it needs to really replicate as much as you possibly can its centerfire counterpart. So with that said, the guns that we're going to use today for this test is the Glock Model 44. For those of you that don't know, the Glock Model 44 is basically a Glock 19 that is chambered in 22 long rifle. So it's cloned after a Glock 19 Gen 5. Every feature is basically the same. The mag catch is the same. Slide stop, slide release is the same. The texture, everything is exactly the same. Even the dimensions of the magazines are the same. Really the only difference is obviously the caliber and the weight. Obviously one way to offset the weight a little bit is to add a weapon light. And for this test, we are going to be swapping this weapon light back and forth between both guns, just to keep it pretty fair. The holster that I'm using requires that I use this light, so I'm going to swap the light back and forth between the guns as I'm doing the test. The other difference, other than caliber, like I said, is going to be the weight. It's not a big difference between these two, but it is noticeable. I've done everything I can to balance it out, and the way I did that is on the back of a Glock here, there's a void that a lot of people put a grip plug, and what I did is I filled this void completely with birdshot out of shotgun shell and then put the grip plug in. So that added a couple ounces of weight, and it got these two much closer together. This Glock 44 does have a set of Ameriglow fiber optic sights. Other than that, it is completely stock. The Glock 19 that we're using is a Gen 4. So it's got some little tiny differences, but there's really nothing really that big of a deal. It also has Ameriglow sights. It does have a little bit of grip tape here on the back and in between the finger grooves that I added. So it does have that addition. Also, it does have a mag well that's been added. It's a very minimal mag well. This one is made by Magpul. So that would give the Glock 19 a little bit of an advantage, but since this Glock 44 is a Gen 5, it also has a factory beveled mag well. So even though this has an aftermarket mag well, the 44 has a factory mag well. So it's very, very fair in that regard. So what we're going to do is I'm going to explain each test as we go. As far as how I'm going to do it, I'm going to use my shot timer that I don't have on my belt because it's behind the camera. I'm going to use my shot timer to keep up with the times that each gun did, and then average the times together. And I'll explain each test, and then I'll give you the average time for each test on each gun as we go. And then at the end, I'm going to come back and I'm going to take all of those averages and put them together and give a final average and see which one of these came out on top. So basically what we're trying to learn here is can you train with a 22 and it build, you know, good muscle memory and good fundamentals and skill, and will it carry over to the 9mm? So that's what we're going to try to find out today. So let's get into the first test. Alright, so before we get into the first test, I just wanted to kind of give a little disclaimer, just like I did in the original video. I'm not advocating, once again, for training with only 22 pistols. I'm just advocating is using this as a potential cost-saving measure, and will that actually work is kind of what we're going for here. So I'm not saying that you can train with 22 and never fire your centerfire gun. That's completely the opposite of what I'm saying. Once again, I said in the original video, if you're the type of guy that only puts down a couple thousand rounds a year, this really isn't going to be worth the time or the money for you. You'd be better served to take the money that it takes to buy this Glock 44 and just buy some centerfire ammo and train with your centerfire. But if you're the type of guy that's looking to put a couple thousand rounds a month, and that's kind of hard to do because of your budget, this can be an investment that, you know, in the long run can really pay off if this theory works. So I just wanted to throw that out there before we got into the test, that's kind of a big deal. A lot of people are going to laugh at the fact of training with 22, but a lot of those people that do laugh at it, I've seen them get outshot on several occasions. So you better not knock it till you try it. So let's get into the test. All of the shots are going to be on just a standard A-zone style target. So I'll be shooting at the center mass A-zone, and then any headshots that I do will be the B-zone head. I don't know the exact size. It's probably like 5 or 6 inches square, but all those shots are going to be done on that style of target. And they're also all going to be done at 5 yards, if I didn't mention that before. So the targets are 5 yards away. But the first test is going to be real simple. I'm going to start at the compress ready like this. On the sound of the shot timer, I'm simply going to drive the gun out and fire one shot. So I'm going to do that 5 times with the Glock 19 and 9mm, and then I'm going to do it 5 times with the Glock Model 44. And as we go, I will give you the averages of which each gun did, and then we'll come back and we'll look at what the next test is, and then we'll go from there. So let's take a look at that first test now. So the second test is going to be real similar, but this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off aimed at the feet of the target, and I'm going to be looking at the target, so I'm looking over the gun. So I'll start off very similar to this. On the sound of the shot timer, I will just raise the gun up and fire one shot center mass. We'll get the averages for both guns, and then we'll go on to the next one. Alright, for the next test, I'm going to once again start at the compress ready. On the sound of the buzzer, I'm going to drive the pistol out. I'm going to fire 2 shots into the A-zone center mass, and then going to transition to the head and fire 1 shot. Some people call this the failure drill. It's just real simple though, 2 in the chest and 1 in the head. Once again, I'm going to do it 5 times with the 9mm, get an average, and then we'll do it 5 times with the 22 version. See what we get. Alright, for the fourth test, I didn't want to do a whole lot of drawing from a holster. because, you know, there's no scientific way to really perform a test like this, and I'm trying to take as much of the human error out of it as I can to honestly compare the two. But I knew somebody was probably going to want to see the comparison from the holster. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to start standing facing the target. I'm going to go ahead and have my hand grip on the holster, or on the gun I should say. The reason I'm doing that, I'm trying to eliminate the fact that I could miss grip on one gun or the other, and that really wouldn't be a fair comparison. So I'm going to start with my hand already on the gun like this. On the sound of the timer, I'm going to come out, I'm going to fire one round, and then I'm going to perform a reload and fire one more round. It's not going to be a slide lock reload. It's just going to be simply like a tack reload, so the gun is still going to have a full magazine. So I'm just going to fire, reload, and then fire. The reason I'm not doing slide lock reload is I have a super high grip on pretty much any modern day gun, especially Glocks. So any gun out there, I don't care what it is, really only locks open about 50% of the time on last round for me, because I ride against that slide stop, slide release so bad. So doing a slide lock reload between the two wouldn't be a fair test, because I don't get slide lock every single time. So I'm just going to simply do it with a full magazine, like I said, and I'm going to do it from the holster with my hand already established. Come out, press, and fire one round, drop the magazine, perform a reload, and then fire another round. The holster I'm drawing from is a TR holsters, and it is a light bearing holster, so I have to have this light on the gun for it to work. And I'm drawing from STAC Kiwi magazine pouches right here. So let's check that one out. Alright, the fifth test is going to be transitions. I'm going to have the pistol at the compress ready once again. The targets will still be 5 yards away, and they will also be 5 yards apart. I'm going to, when the shot timer goes off, I'm going to press out and fire one round. I'm then going to transition to the other target and fire one round. I'm going to transition back to this target and fire one round. So a total of 3 rounds fired. So once again, I'll do it with the Glock 19, then I'll do it with the Glock 44, and we'll see what kind of times that we get. I'm sure you probably already noticed by now, something I don't think I mentioned in the beginning was each of these tests I'm doing with the 9mm version first. So that could be a little bit unfair, because it allows me to kind of get used to doing a given task with the 9mm, and then I do the same task with a 44, and I'm already trying to kind of warmed up to what I'm doing. So you could argue that that's a little unfair, but we'll just see how it adds up in the end, and we'll see if the 22 comes out on top or if the 9mm does. But let's check out that next test. Alright, so the last test that we're going to do is going to be a bill drill of sorts. It's not going to be a full-fledged bill drill. Technically, that would be at 7 yards from the holster. We're not going to do it that way. We're still going to do it at 5 yards, but we are going to do it from a compress ready. So what I'm going to do is, on the sound of the shot timer, I'm going to drive the pistol out, and I'm going to fire 6 rounds into the A-zone of the target. So this will be a little bit longer string of fire. Once again, we'll do it with the 9mm, then we'll do it with the 22 version, and then we'll come back after that and look at all the times. As you can see, it's a pretty close race. I know this isn't a super scientific test. You could have done numerous other things to compare these two, but I thought these were pretty simple and straightforward, and would give both guns a chance to shine. Long story short, I guess you've seen the numbers, and you've noticed that a few times the 22 version came out on top, and a few times the 9mm version came out on top, but they were very close across the board in all of these tests. I know these tests also are kind of dependent on my abilities, but it still gives a pretty good baseline as far as I'm trying to shoot both of these guns as best I can in each test, and that's really all I can do. With that said, I've got a little cheat sheet here because I can't remember everything. I did take all of the averages from each gun on each test, and I put all those together, and then I divided that number by 6 because that's the number of tests we had. And the final average times for each gun across the board are pretty impressive. The 9mm, let's see, I've got it here. These two are so much alike, it's pretty easy to get them confused. The 9mm's final score was a 1.36. So across every single test, it performed a 1.36 was its final score. The 22 version, if you got any guesses, you can put them in the comment below. The 22 version was a 1.35. So I was 1/10 of a second faster with the 22. If you saw my video where I did this with the AR 22, you'll know that on that particular test, kind of a spoiler alert if you want to go watch that video, I actually was 1/10 of a second faster with the 5.56 gun than the 22. So it's really interesting to me that now today with the pistols, I'm 1/10 of a second slower with the centerfire pistol. With that said, I said it in the original video, I have no doubt in my mind I could go back and run this exact same test again, and the next time the 9mm would be 1/10 of a second faster. Granted, 1/10 of a second matters, but it is very, very minute when you're talking about the number of rounds I fired here. I'm not sure exactly what the round count was. I think it was like 75 or 80 rounds each gun. So if I went back and ran this test over and over and over, I'm sure each time it would be just slightly different. That's just the human error part in it. There's no way I can really figure that out. Long story short though, I think it proves my point once again that 22 training, when taken seriously, when you use a real dedicated 22 trainer, you know, don't get down here to the range and just start blasting off rounds just because it's a 22 and it's cheap. Take each shot seriously. Work your fundamentals, you know, really trying, if you're really trying to better yourself as a shooter, that's the way to do it. Just blasting off rounds to say that you went shooting, that's not going to do anything. You've got to be, deliberate practice is the way to become a better shooter. Well, that about wraps it up. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. I hope I provided some pretty good information for anyone that was interested in this particular topic. Drop your comments below. I'd love to hear them. And as always, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.